Hi and welcome back to BookTube with Amy. Today is going to be my end of May wrap up and stats. So the first book that I read at the end of the month was Turning 30 by Mike Gale. I very aptly read this on my trip to London with Simon when I was turning 30. He did the same, so we thought it would be cool if we had both done that and we could chat a wee bit about the book and stuff. I have mixed feelings on this book. I really didn't like it to begin with. Like, first quarter of the book I was like, I hate this, I hate our main character, really I'm not enjoying it, and then the rest of the book I absolutely fell in love with it and it turned out to be a 5-star read, so such a weird experience. So we have our main character Matt in this one, and he is turning 30, and when he is younger he has all these ideals and goals that he feels he should have hit by the time he is 30. And he realises when he's turning 30 that he's not really there. He doesn't have, you know, a great relationship with some of his early childhood friends that he thought he would have, and he has just ended a relationship with his long-term girlfriend. Things weren't really working out, and he's moved back home with his mum and dad. He's sort of not sure what he wants to do career-wise, and is just having a bit of an orange crap time, and so he decides to try and get the gang back together, try and rekindle some of these friendships and relationships for his youth, and decide how he wants to start his life in his 30s, basically, given that all the ideas he had about what it would be like just aren't really living up. I didn't like Matt as a main character. For the first bit of the book, that was really one of the things that was bringing me down, because you were getting it from his perspective. I think that sometimes he just acts like a total child and it was very annoying, but then for the rest of the book I actually quite enjoyed his character. I think that you're probably supposed to not really like him and think he's a wee bit of a spoiled brat at times, and you know, everything he does makes sense and that's alright. He's definitely a flawed character, and I think that when I came around to that I was like, right, okay, I can get on board here. And I think that most of our characters in here are pretty flawed characters. I don't think that anybody is perfect. I don't think that anybody is free from having made mistakes, but the relationships between all of these people are really interesting, and I enjoyed that. And I liked that the guys in here all had this history together because they all grew up together, they had went to school together, and you didn't feel like you were left out because you didn't have this shared history, because they were obviously older and they hadn't seen each other for years. They were reminiscing, and so you got to feel like you were part of the fun and that you were in on these inside jokes and sharing the stories, and I think that that was really well done. I think that the writing in here was fantastic. It was very funny, it was very effortless, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I say, it ended up being a 5-star for me. I would definitely pick up future works from Mike Gale, and this book was going in a direction that I didn't like, and I was like, I hope it doesn't go here, I hope it goes here, but it was like steering towards here the entire time, and then at the last minute it took a turn to where I actually wanted it to go. And so I think that that was quite good as well, because you didn't really see, not like the twists, it's not like a thriller, but you didn't really see that amount of character development coming, I guess, and then it did, and so I was like, oh yes, I loved it. I'm really glad I read this, to be honest. It is by no means going to be like one of my best books of the year or anything like that, but I did enjoy it, and it was a 5-star read. I would definitely check out Mary Mike Gale's work. And then I read Restore Me by Taheri Mafi. Rant incoming. So I have a love-hate relationship with the Shatter Me series, as in I hated the first two, loved the third one. Like, the first one was billed to me like it was gonna be X-Men, and then it was just like a shitey tweeny romance, which was dull as fuck, by the way. And then the second one I got a wee bit more of what I was wanting, but still not enough. And then the third one was Dino, because I felt like the story was actually progressing, we were getting some really good character development, we got a lot more Warner, who's my wee baby, like a lot less Adam, who's fucking annoying. But then this one I just thought was an absolute flop, like absolute flop again, right up until the end. And Taheri Mafi does this literally every single time. I'll slog through a book, no be enjoying it, and then she'll put a cliffhanger on the end, so I need to read the next one. And I appreciate I could just look up what happens in the series, but no, because she's taken me this far. Like, I want to say that I've completed this series, if nothing else than for my stats. So I'm going to read the last 2 books, just to spite her. Or maybe spite myself, who knows at this point. I'm going to talk about spoilers in this book, because it's the 4th in a series, so I can't really talk about anything if I am there into spoiler territory. So like, skip to the next book if you didn't want to stick about the spoiler chat. But I rated this a 2-star. It was pish. So at the end of the last book, Juliet has taken over the re-establishment, right? Something that the entire series has been building to is the re-establishment falling. And then at the beginning of this book, it's as if that has never happened. Like, she's basically just a figurehead, and she doesn't actually do any of the work. And we focus so much on her stupid fucking relationship drama and her and Warner finally getting their hole, that like, all the political stuff that I'm really buzzing for and really interested in just isn't there at all until the very end of this book. And I was scunnered. Like, good for her and Warner. Glad yous are pumping. Great, yous have waited 4 books for it. Cool. But did I need like 8 sex scenes of you guys in here? No. Like, I definitely needed more politics though, considering it's sort of for the foundation of the entire fucking series. But anyway, too much pumping, not enough politics would be my overarching takeaway for this book. It was slow as fuck. Like, literally fuck all happened until you were at least halfway through the book. It was literally Juliet pumping her boyfriend or hanging out with her pal. That was it. Genuinely fuck all else. And that's so disappointing, because she could have been so badass. We could have really ramped up this book. A lot more action, a lot more politics. It could have been something. It could have been something. But no, it was shite was what it was. I was so disappointed. And then like the last half of the book, again, Terry Maffei can actually write a plot when she feels like trying for 10 minutes at a time. So like, she hooks you in, and then I'm going to need to pick up the next one now, and that really fucks me off. And I says to Simon, I've only got like maybe 30 pages left, and at the minute I am planning to read the next one. And he was like, bet you will. And he was right, because I'm going to have to read the next one now to find out what the script is. But it's just so annoying, because when she writes plot and she writes character development, she can actually do it pretty well. Like, and I'm engaged with it. That's why I loved book 3, because book 3 we got so much character development and so much plot happening that I thoroughly enjoyed it. So it's frustrating that I know she could write a 5-star book for me, but she's choosing to write smut and drivel, and it just fucks me off. It feels like a waste, to be honest. An absolute waste. And I know that the last 3 books in the series, loads of people did they like, because I believe like originally it was a trilogy, and then there was a big long gap, it gained some popularity, so then she wrote the last 3. So I didn't know if the last 3 were just a pure cash grab or what, but like, I can't be fucked. It's just so frustrating when I feel like an author put absolutely no effort into their work when I know they can write better than this. Like, it's so annoying. I rated this a 2-star, and I can't believe I'm going to continue the series off a 2-star. But like, the audiobooks are on script, and I feel like I'm just going to put them on like fucking triple speed or something. Bailey's just sat and moved my entire shot. Thanks, son. I feel like I'm going to just put the audiobooks onto triple speed, and my next day off just like blast through them while I'm doing bits around the house or something, so that I can find out how the fuck it ends. No great, Terry Maffei. No great. And then I read We Can Never Leave This Place by Eric LaRocca. Simon got me this as part of my birthday, and I read it like immediately. I really like Eric LaRocca's writing, and he's another author that's been a wee bit hit miss for me. I really adored Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. I wasn't too much of a fan of You've Lost a Lot of Blood, but I really did enjoy this one. So we have our main character Mara, and she and her family are living in some sort of a dystopian end of world catastrophic event, but we didn't really ever get to find out what it is. Could be a totally other world, who knows. But all we know is her and her family are trapped in these tenements, and they need to struggle to get food, and there's like a war zone outside, and there are these big mad monsters, so you can't really go out. And her dad dies, and she has a really tumultuous relationship with her mum, and so it's basically her and her mum left on their own, and about the both of them trying to navigate that in this really scary, difficult world. And Mara is quite an unreliable narrator, and so you never really know if what she's telling you is the truth, or if like she's making it up in her head, because she is quite the imagination, and it creates this sort of a really dark undertone for the rest of the book. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. I ended up rating this one a 5-star. I really liked it. I feel like the characterisations in here are very interesting, and the relationship between Mara and her mum is so interesting, because although like it's not outright dark, like they really fucking hate each other, and they say things sometimes just to spite each other and hurt each other, and that was interesting to watch. It was interesting to see her mum and how she's dealing with the loss of her husband as well as everything else, and sort of taking it all out on Mara because she really doesn't like her. And then we get some pretty shocking revelations about them and their family setup, and I feel like I didn't want to spoil this because it's probably, like, it's such a short book, it's probably better if you just go into it without knowing anything, so I didn't really want to say any more than that plot wise, but I did really like it. And there was almost this like fantastical horror-y element which I've never really experienced before, because you didn't really get enough information in here to know where it's set, and so you're left to your own devices, I guess, to imagine where it is and how things are. Like, you could probably just read this like a straight up creature feature, like, or you could read it how I read it, which was like present day after some mad event, and like Mara was a wee bit unreliable and some stuff was just in her head, you know. But I think either way it could be quite an interesting approach, and I don't think it's a flaw of the book. Like, I think it's a strength of the book, because you get all the information you need for this story, and it's just about how, where and why you put this story into play. And I really enjoyed that. I thought it was fantastically done, brilliantly written. Bits of it were proper gruesome, which I fucking love. I love Eric LaRocca's absolutely boggin writing, and I say boggin with like the highest regard, let me tell you. Like, if you can write something that makes me feel a bit spewy, yes, more power to you. Love that for you. I'm so proud. But this is absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and I would recommend for anybody who likes sort of a more splatterpunky, body horror-y, gross stuff to check out Eric LaRocca. He is like the future of boggin queer horror, and I can't wait for it. Totally here for it. Totally here for it. That was a 5-star read for me, in case anybody couldn't have told. I think I maybe already says that, but my head's not really here the day as and when I'm filming this, so we'll jump over now to my stats. So before we jump into my stats for me, I just want to talk to you about a couple of statistics that I've decided to start tracking. So I want to start tracking how many books I'm reading that are independently published versus traditionally published, and I am putting a goal in place for this year. I've already set my goals for the year, and I am going to be changing them, but I would be interested in potentially setting myself a goal for next year, because I always like to think that my channel is a channel where I really rep indie published authors, and you could come here for some good indie recommendations. Always take part in Indie August and things like that, and I always really enjoy independently published books, specifically horror. And so again, if I'm making a claim or an assumption about my channel, then I want to have some data there to back it up a wee bit. So I just want to track that just for me, and then I can be keeping a wee eye on what I'm reading that's indie versus traditional. And maybe if I'm reading a lot of traditional, then subconsciously I'll make a wee bit of a shift to try and pick up some of the indie books that I've got on my shelf, because I have masses of them. And I also want to track how I am reading a book. So I mainly do physical or audio. sometimes a bit of a mix. I rarely read an ebook unless it's an arc, but it's something that I know a lot of people track, and I just think that it would be cool to have that and to see how I am consuming my books that I have. So you'll see them this month added in, but they aren't changing my goals or anything for the year. I'm keeping them what I said at the beginning of the year. It's just some additional data that I really want to have a wee look at. Simon and Bailey making a cameo. He's always got to be in a video, doesn't he?
He loves attention.
He does.
His fans love it.
His fans do love it. There are definitely some Bailey stans on the channel for sure. So in May, I read 7 books that were by female authors, which makes up 58% of my reading, and 5 books by male authors, which made up 42% of my reading, and I'm happy with that split. I always try to be reading from more female authors than male authors. And then in terms of my ethnicity split, I read 7 books that were by white authors, which makes up 58% of my reading, and 5 books by BAME authors, which makes up 42% of my reading. And I'm really happy to see a wee bit of a shift in that statistic this month, because for the past few months, I feel like I've been reading nothing but predominantly white authors, and I set myself the goal at the beginning of the year to read 15 books by BAME authors this year. Last year, I did 12, so I wanted to increase on that a wee bit and just continue to be picking up these books as I go, because I want to be making sure that I am reading a bit more diversely, because I claim to read diversely, so that will be good to have some statistic to back that up. And also, with me being a mood reader, like they just read whatever I fancy picking up, and I've loads of books by amazing BAME authors on my shelves, and so if I know that that's something that I am actively trying to read more of this year, then I'll maybe gravitate towards them a wee bit more. In terms of my queer split, I read 7 books this month that were not queer, which made up 58% of my reading, versus 5 books, which makes up 42% of my reading, that were queer. And I think that's one of the first months really that has happened. I tend to pick up predominantly queer books, so my ratings will be interesting. So in terms of what I've been reading, I've read 3 YA fantasies this month. I have read 2 fantasies this month, 2 horror novels, 2 literary fictions, 2 paranormal romance, and 1 cozy mystery. Now, historically, my channel has been a fantasy and horror reviewing channel, but more recently, I am starting to pick up more literary fiction. I have severely got into cozy mysteries to the point where, like, it's a bit of an addiction and a hindrance at this point, because for a while they were all I wanted to read. But in the being my birthday month, I've obviously just picked up whatever it was that I really fancied, and it's interesting that literary fiction, cozy mysteries, paranormal romance have made their way in there, as well as my usual staples. In terms of my series versus standalone split, I read 9 books, which made up 75% of my reading, which was a series, which is brilliant because I've got a series I need to finish this challenge, where I am trying to finish all of the series that I have started, as well as starting a couple of new ones this year with the aim to finish them within the year. And then I read 3 books, which makes up 25% of my reading, that were standalones. In terms of the format of the books I read this month, so I read 5 books physically, which made up 42% of my reading. I read 4 books on audio, which made up 33% of my reading, and 3 books where I did a mix of both, which made up 25% of my reading. In terms of my publishing split, I read 9 books, which makes up 75% of my reading, by traditionally published authors, and I read 3 books, which makes up 25% of my reading, by indie published authors, which isn't too bad. My ratings, I rated my white authors 4.14 stars, my BAME authors 3.8 stars, I rated my male authors 4.4 stars, and my female authors 3.71 stars. Now, I tend to rate female authors higher than male authors, but all the male authors that I picked up this month, apart from Mike Gale, were authors that I had read from previously and was either continuing a series or I had liked their other works and rated them quite highly, so that's quite an interesting split for this month. In terms of my queer, I rated my non-queer books 4.14 and my queer books 3.8. It is the first time in the history of recording my stats where I have ever rated non-queer books higher than queer books, so that is quite interesting. And then my indie versus traditionally published. My indie books rated higher. They came in at 4.67 stars on average, and my traditionally published books came in at 3.78. And then my series versus standalone split were exactly the same. They averaged out at 4 stars apiece. Then my literary fiction rated 5 stars, my paranormal romance rated 5 stars, my cozy mystery rated 4, fantasy rated 4, horror rated 3.5, and YA fantasy rated 3. I am finding that the more YA fantasy series that I am trying to finish off, the lower the ratings are going. So apparently the YA fantasy series I'm reading, the authors just aren't wrapping up the series very well. But I'm surprised that my horror's sitting at 3.5. I would have expected that to have rated a wee bit higher. I didn't have any DNFs in May. Again, quite surprising because we know I love a DNF. And then in terms of my page count, so in May, I read 3,685 pages, which brings my average page count per book to 307.8 pages. Compared to last month, I've obviously read quite a substantial amount more. Last month was a pure slumpy month, as was March, so I'm really chuffed that I seem to be coming out of that now and that I am reading a bit more. Happy with that, but none of the books that I read in May made it into my top 10 longest. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you're enjoying everything that you're reading at the moment. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!